Welcome back to the Ride and Laugh podcast. If you love mountain bikes, you are in the right place. Picture your last group ride. You're back at the parking lot. The Stoke is high. Everyone's talking tech, progression, nutrition, bikes. You love bikes. We love bikes. Let's drop in. Seiji, how are you this week?
Oh, I'm doing so good. Danny had an excellent week of riding. And you know what? Quick shout out, because our buddy Shelly went into surgery yesterday and she is doing awesome. So kudos to her and sending healing vibes.
Yes, fantastic. We're thinking about you, Shelly. I just sent her a text as well. And actually, you preempted my shout out. I mean, I really didn't have a chance. I really didn't. Sage, how are you? Shelly, get well. And I was like, man, I was going to, I had a whole thing set up. Well, I'm going to mention Shelly later on because she has a fantastic comment in the e-bike episode, which I will read on the podcast. So, but yes, Shelly, we're thinking about you now and again in about 7 minutes or 10, depending on how much we joke around. Let's go 15. Let's just go 15.
Danny, how are you doing?
I'm doing very well. Thank you for asking. I just am returning from a very quick whirlwind visit with my family to our little condo in Arizona. And I'm busy, but I'm good. Yeah, and we're talking mountain bikes, so even better.
Hey, we're talking mountain bikes, and you know what? We're on episode 25, bro.
Yeah, that's a nice milestone. That's a nice milestone. Yeah, I know. Yeah. I keep every episode, and they're so fun to record, and we love just talking bikes. We can go on and on. So many times we start and our topic is one thing and we never get to it because we're joking around about something else. But it's so much fun. And what's so great is the feedback that we're getting is that people enjoy listening. Like, hey, you guys do love bikes and you guys are fun. And we want everyone to be part of the conversation. And so if you're laughing in your car or you're chuckling when you're watching this on YouTube, then that's great. Job. Mission accomplished.
Yes, yes.
So we will get into the reviews or the comments from Ride and Laugh podcast number 23, which we titled Electrified Progression. Yeah. And there were 2 RNL hot takes. Make sure on YouTube that you hit that little bell and subscribe and give us a thumbs up. But if you hit the little bell, then you'll get the hot take. So if you're not watching the full, if you're listening on your podcast player and you don't have time to watch the full episode on YouTube, Sage puts a lot of video in there and he does an awesome job. And so the hot takes are going to be much shorter. They have their own comments and they're totally worth watching. So the electrified progression, the 2 hot takes, battery anxiety and unlock jumping with this, and tons of great comments, tons of great feedback, which we totally expected and I'm really pleased by. And a lot of information. We threw out a lot of questions during that episode of things that we just didn't know. Yeah. So I picked Jeff Jackson MTB, and he says on the Shimano e-mountain bikes that he's ridden, there's 2 power profiles. One will apply maximum power the instant you start pedaling. The other ramps up power more gradually. Sage would like slow tech with a profile that ramps up gradually.
Oh.
And then he talks about that he has the RE Nebo Peak e-mountain bike, and so he's talking about the motor with that one, and that it's a much more natural feeling. And still has the torque that you need on technical climbs. So all of it, and he concludes with saying that he actually he's getting his progression of his e-mountain bike progression on climbs because he's doing technical climbs on his e-mountain bike that he couldn't do on his acoustic bike. And now he's saying, oh, I can do this. If I lay down this kind of power on this climb, I can get this on my acoustic bike. And so we talked about it for downhills, but here's a guy who's saying, he's getting progression on climbs. He's getting confidence on climbs. You can ride a bike up this. So if I put the power down, I can ride my bike up this. Right?
I like that. That's interesting. Yeah, that's really interesting.
So 3 things in there, really. There was that one about the climbing. There's the RE bike, which we've looked at and is like very reasonably priced. Looks really nice.
Yeah.
He's talking about the Nebo Peak, which is like their trail 150, 140. I would go more for I forget what they call it, but it's a 170, like enduro bike. I would go with the big boy. But nonetheless, the different power profiles is the most important probably because we were talking about in tech and we just don't know. We rode
That's right.
one type of bike for 3 days, and we just don't know. And I have some more feedback on that also. So I thought that was very interesting that this Shimano motor has different profiles that you can set up for your type of riding. So
Yeah.
something to play with, right?
Well, listen, Ari, if you want to send us some demo e-bikes, please. I would be happy to try out those power profiles.
Yeah. Thank you, Jeff Jackson, MTB.
Yes,
All right,
thank you,
so Cool Keith, 8908.
Okay.
He said just put it in a harder gear so it doesn't lurch.
Oh,
That does kind of make sense, right? That it wouldn't power up as fast. I'm not sure, but there's a tip from someone that probably is e-mountain biking that's found a way that it doesn't, so it doesn't lurch forward on scary tech.
yeah, that's interesting. We did not experiment too much. Well, we didn't get to. It rained, almost every day, so we really didn't get to.
Yeah, totally.
Do that much experimenation with the
Yeah.
tech, and they weren't our bikes, so we
Right.
weren't about to
We weren't
take it on
planning.
anything.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, we weren't planning on
so-
thrashing these bikes regardless. Yeah.
Yeah. So, but that's an interesting one. I'd like to try that.
Okay, here's another one at Zilla YT. I have the Trek Fuel EXE, which I looked up and it looks really nice. And I ride it with the motor off 50% of the time, and it feels like a regular acoustic bike. The other times are in eco mode.
Okay. I
You
can't
commented
imagine.
back to him asking how heavy the bike was, and he said 42 pounds.
Yeah, 42 pounds is significantly less than the bikes that we were riding.
Yes.
But it's still quite a bit heavier than my analog. So I'd be curious to see what that would feel like. I'm not sure. I guess it'd be easy to figure out 42 pounds. We could just slap some sandbags on the on the bike, but I don't know.
Yeah, guess who's not doing that?
Yeah, right.
This guy.
Yeah, for sure.
How about we just go out to the buffet the night before, and then we'll be like, all
there we
right,
go.
42 pounds. Let's go. Nobody goes to the bathroom before the ride. We're just going to the buffet, and then we're riding.
There you go. Yeah, I love it.
Yeah, that might be a little bit of a disaster. So, but that's a pretty cool looking bike. And I saw that in that bike, you can pull the battery out. So if you wanted to just ride it, I guess it's going to get lighter than 42 pounds if you wanted to take it to a bike park or something like that and not have the battery in there.
Now you're talking.
That's pretty cool. These things are really getting cool. These things, they are really evolving. I mean, the demand is out there. From the response I've seen, a lot of people have said like, yeah, you know what? I don't have one yet, but I want one. And I just can't get over the progression that you can have by doing laps on these things. And that's what people are like agreeing with us. Like, yeah, it's real.
Yeah, on the weight thing. Now that I think about it some more, I think I would like the 42-pound version of the bike just because I'm a smaller rider. But in regards to taking out the battery, I'm not sure that I would do that. And the reason why is the only reason I am riding the e-bike is for the E part of it. Like I want to be able to session the laps. And I think you and I were pleasantly surprised at how the weight actually helped to center and balance the bike. Like it had a really nice center of gravity. So I'm not sure that I would like to take the battery out, And now if this is your only bike, that makes a lot of sense. Okay, take the battery out and, now you have a lighter bike. But I think for you and I, we would probably leave the battery in and we're really using the e-bike for a specific purpose. But that's not everybody. That's just us.
But if you learn how to jump with the geometry and the comfort of that bike, and maybe the weight has something to do with it, but if you learn how to do that and then you go to the bike park and you want to stay on that bike and you take the battery out and just make it a little bit lighter. I mean, you could leave the battery in, but getting the bikes on and off the lift can be a thing too, right?
Yeah, I guess so. There's so many questions that, we're just not in the e-bike life. So it's hard to make, choices on these things. We just have to experiment.
There's so much we don't know about these. Like we haven't done the research. Like we were going to buy one, we're not doing research because we're just waiting for one to magically appear in our garage. I'm starting to do the research. Right. I'm interested. I am very interested. I feel like the demos are like almost necessary. I wouldn't know which one to get. there's so much out there. There's so much cool stuff out there. I almost have anxiety to like pull the trigger because, technology anxiety, where if I buy this phone, the next phone's going to be out in 3 months and it's going to be even better. And I'm going to be stuck with the old one, like the e-bikes seem to be getting better and better.
Another thing about the weight, I know we're going to talk about this later, but on my ride with Keeton, I had my hydration pack and I was like, you know what? I had my analog bike with me and I was like, let me try my hydration pack because that's pretty heavy. It's got a full bladder in it because it was really hot. And I tried jumping with that. No, weight is definitely, I don't know how to say this, but like where your weight is makes a huge difference. Having the weight on your back was an absolute no. I did one run with that thing on my back and I was like, nope, I'm taking it right off. So having...
it's the weight in the bottom that makes the e-bike so stable. You're putting the weight on the on your back. It's on the exact opposite end of where you would be stable. Yeah. I wouldn't think that would be a good idea unless somehow you wrapped it around your bottom bracket or something. Put those sandbags on there.
There you go.
All right. So, and then our friend Shelly, who is the captain and founder of the fire team, and last time we met her, it was pre hip surgery, but that thing was bothering her pretty good. And she was on a really sweet e-bike, and she wrote a great comment, but it was really clever because she addressed it. Dear e-bike, I love you because, let me count the ways. I can't ride in the heat without wanting to barf. You can clear technical climbs that I can't yet under my own power. I love that, Shelly. You allow me to keep up with and pass my fastest friends. You make my other bikes feel extra light and nimble when I switch back to them. Oh, and at the moment, the e-mountain bike is the only thing I can ride since she's getting a total hip replacement in 6 days. Now that's already gone past. And her goal is to get back to riding all bikes. And she knows that the e-mountain bike is going to make that recovery easier and she'll be able to get back on her bike sooner. And then she also mentions that she thinks that you would get used to the extra assist in technical climbs, technical sections, and using the brakes, and that it took her a couple of months. So there's an adjustment period, but she did kind of dial that in. So, but I thought that was a really clever way to write like a little love letter to the e-bike, and a lot of really good points in there about those hot days and the technical climbs that she's not getting yet, and keeping up with faster friends, and then how the bike feels, how other bikes feel when you switch back to them.
Yeah. I mean, we had talked about also using that bike, recovering from an injury as a big part of that. We know Shelly, but we also know Colby Barth, we know John Pacharis. So these are really handy tools when you're in recovery from an injury or you're doing an actual recovery ride. So yeah, I'm 100% sold. Like there are so many use cases for the e-bike. You and I aren't using the e-bike, or we don't want an e-bike for the fitness aspects of it. We just want to be able to session, which means, doing laps. We just want to be able to session on the e-bike. But there are other people that this is their mountain biking experience. Like this is what they want to do. They're not interested in the climbs. They just want to do downhilling and have fun. And that's great too. It's getting more people out onto the trails. And hey, if that's your thing, then that's your thing.
It's just kind of like letting go of judgment, letting everyone have their own experience, and just like, hey, we're all out here to be stoked and have fun. And some of us have worked really, really hard to be able to earn our turns. And that doesn't, does that give us a right to then go be like judgmental jerks to someone who hasn't?
I was there. I was that guy. I was that guy for a really long time. When they first came out, I think it's because
I'm talking to you about it.
Yeah. I was referring to you.
I'm just kidding. I'm reflecting on myself when I say this, obviously.
Listen, but you know what though? We take pride in how much effort we put in during the week. We don't talk about, when we get onto the podcast, it's a mountain bike podcast, we don't talk about our training rides, but you and I are putting in tons of miles on our road bike. You on a trainer and me on the actual road. And they hurt. They suck. I mean, they really hurt. And for the longest time, that clouded my judgment. And it was like, well, e-bikes, it was like, here I am busting my rear end to get up this hill. And you know what? It's just silly. It's absolutely silly, and shame on me because my eyes weren't open to the full picture. And the full picture is mountain biking is about fun. At the end of the day, it's fun. And you and I just happen to find fitness fun. Wow, that's kind of cool. Fitness fun. Fitness is fun for us, though. You know, we enjoy that pain, you know, but that's not everybody. And that's okay.
Yeah, it's a different door into the sport. And it's a little bit of a different sport without the climbing. You know,
for sure.
The first 20 years that we did this, there was no e-bikes, and it was just earn your turns. And there was a certain and single speeding. You know, we started single speeding, and there was there was a culture around that, and there was judgment around that. If you had gears, you know, or suspension at one point when we were riding rigid. So, you know, the mind is always looking for something to be judgmental or better about. And when we let that stuff go to other people, and then we let it go to ourselves, you know, stop being so hard on ourselves. Like, just, you know what, everything's cool. I'm really good at this. I feel really good. And, you know, so it's almost like you could feel your brain relax a little bit.
Yes.
You could feel your shoulders even relax a little bit.
Yeah.
Like, just let it go. And good things can happen when you're in that more positive frame of mind. Then good things happen. And but I do understand it, because there was an exclusivity to mountain biking in that if you to get to the top of certain hills with a bike meant you pedaled up there, you know. And now that's kind of gone, right? Like
a little bit, yeah.
Yeah. So, but that's okay. It's just more people. There's enough for all of us, and we don't know what e-bikers are going to say. You know, look, I want to try to get this pedaling a regular bike, and you know, where they're going to get in fitness in a different way. So. I just think there's room for all of us.
You know, there was a lot of like, I still feel it sometimes when for the life of me, I cannot figure out why Strava does not have a downhill park entry.
Yeah,
but they don't. So what ends up happening is if you run your bike computer at the bike park, you get all this elevation, and you know,
you get credit for it. Yeah.
You get credit for all these climbs that you technically didn't do. And I would love to be able to turn that off. I wish that Strava would have a thing that would say, this is bike park, but there's no way to do that. And I still, to this day, will every so often get some comments from people like, you know, just hating on the bike park, like, oh, fake elevation and blah, blah, blah. And it's like, I know what that feels like when I receive comments like that. And you know, that was one of the things that turned me off right away and then opened my mind up to e-bikes too. Because I remember feeling like, what do you want me to do? Like, we're just having fun on a downhill park. And I was like, wait a second. I'm doing that same thing to people on e-bikes. And they're just out to have fun. And it's like, who am I? Right? Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Who are we? Yeah. I mean, we're just other people. We're just people on bikes. Yeah.
That's right.
People in the parking lot. Yeah, being stoked. So
yes,
yeah. No, there's room for everybody, stoke for everybody, abundance for everybody, and the less judgment we send out, the less judgment we put into ourselves, I think the more joyful that we are. Yeah. So, yeah, it's we're maturing, we're growing up, my friend.
Yeah,
I think in another 20, 30 years we'll.
Yeah.
Another 20, 30 years, we'll be fully formed adults. Meanwhile, last podcast was all about breaking wind and cutting wind and second wind. Like, if growing up means that we can't make fart jokes, I'm out. I'm staying immature. The last comment that I wanted to bring up was kind of was interesting in that it's like an everyone or no one kind of thing, and we had talked about this, and that was Racer X179 said, I borrowed an e-bike for about a week and it was a blast, and my next bike will be one, which is an interesting comment because the rest of the comment was, I used to do some group rides with a bunch of guys, but now 5 or 6 of them have e-bikes and it's just not fun anymore, and some of the other Amish bike riders in the group have dropped off from that group as well. And I feel that. Like, I don't want to get an e-bike if you don't have one. I would even want to make sure that they were kind of close in power. You know, like, I mean, I feel bad riding gears when you're single speeding. You know, like, if you're single speeding, I'm like, well, where can we single speed together? You know, I mean, when you were on your single speed exclusively, that only lasted for 1 week, 2 weeks. And then I was like, yeah, dude, I think I'm going back to gears, but the point is that, you know, you want the group to be similar. And if everyone's on e-bikes and it's a different ride, right?
Yeah, it absolutely is. And I feel for that gentleman because I could see how that would be. It would be disheartening. You got this whole group of buddies, and it's like, you want to hang. So yeah, that's a bummer. And I hope he finds a way to get around that situation. Either get an e-bike or find some analog friends. I have no
get
idea.
some new friends. Yeah, it's one or the other. When we met Steven at Trexler the first day that we demoed the e-bikes.
Yeah.
And he followed us down a couple of the jump lines, and we happened to end up in the parking lot at the same time. And we were talking bikes and stoked, and I was looking at his bike, and he was telling me all about it. And he was saying that he was in his mid-30s, I think, and he was riding with some older guys, and they all got e-bikes. And then he stopped riding. He just missed a whole bunch of rides, and he came back, and he was they were sending jumps way bigger than he was comfortable with. And he was like, what happened? And they were like, e-bikes. Like, we're doing laps now. And they had all progressed so much that he was like, okay, I have to get an e-bike just to keep up with these guys, my riding friends. And he did. And he didn't seem to be looking back. And he still had an analog bike. But, it was like, keep up or find a different group. Because
I know, man. It's crazy. We sound so pro e-bike now. And I just want to be clear. Yeah. We are definitely still analog riders. We're just definitely want to have an e-bike as well in the quiver. Like, it's another tool for us. But no, in our hearts, I think you and I are still analog, and we'll always be analog first. Just fitness is such an important part of our riding.
Yes. I will get into that a little bit when we talk about our rides, because I had an interesting experience on my ride, an e-bike run-in. Everything cool, but just an interesting experience. So, and if you follow either of us on Strava, you will see that Sage is out training on the road. He's running, and I'm torturing myself on the trainer. And I'm not getting on the trainer thinking like, you know what, maybe I'll just stop doing this and get an e-bike. No, I want to be fit. I want to be fit, and I want to be able to ride up and conquer hills. I mean, that to me is a big part of the fun of mountain biking is our technical climbs and getting up all the way up something that takes all of your wind. Like, that's awesome, right? Getting up a really big climb, whether it's technical or not, but getting to the top, training hard and getting to the top feels great. Or overcoming the pain cave. It feels great.
Yes. There are 3 facets to mountain biking. There's climbing, there's tech, and then there's downhilling. There might be others, but for us, it's those 3 things. We train the hell out of those climbs by being on the trainer and on the road. We train the hell out of those slow speed tech moves. We're on slabs, we're doing drops and all kinds of stuff on our bike. The only way to train downhill is either go into a bike park or get an e-bike. And so without the e-bike or a bike park, there's no way to train that third without getting absolutely exhausted. You're blasted after some of these climbs to some of these downhill jump lines. And so it's really just a training tool for us.
Yeah. For now. I mean, if once we own them, we'll see what else it's going to open up.
Yeah.
But we're still going to be on our analog bikes. That's what we say. Let's see what happens. I'm fairly confident in that. That we'll still be on the analog, primarily. But I do think the e-bikes it was just really fun. All right. Just a reminder to everyone to go into your podcast player and leave us a 5-star review and set us to auto download. And that way you also don't miss an episode. And then on some podcast players, you can actually leave a review. So I started going in, I'm reading the Apple podcast, and I'm going to pick the Apple podcast review of the week and encourage everyone to go in and leave us 5 stars. And if you want to leave a couple of words on the Apple podcast, then maybe we'll read it on the podcast. And so this one is from LJOX72. It's titled So Great and Unique, Excellent MTB Conversations. And it says, this duo have great riding chemistry that you can see in their YouTube videos, and that all translates to this fun and informative podcast. Nothing else like it or like them. So thank you, LJOX72. That's an awesome comment.
That is awesome, man. Yeah. Well, why did you start with that? That's the kind of comment I need to hear to get me pumped up, baby.
Oh, you want to go? You want to start over?
Yeah, let's start.
All right. Welcome back. If you love mountain biking, all right, here we go. This duo are awesome. Their chemistry is great. They are shredders. They ride so well, and they're really handsome. Sage, how are you?
Oh, hey, see, this is what I'm talking about. You know what? They do it for football teams and soccer teams and whatever. They bring in like a pep guy, right before the game.
Oh.
Yeah.
Oh.
Uh-huh.
Maybe we need to get LJock72's email, and he can send us like a preparatory email.
I love it.
Us up.
Yeah. Why are we doing emails? Just what? Emails.
You want? Well, what were you thinking? You want a
text?
voicemail box? A text?
A cassette tape? Like, wait, what are you going here?
You're gonna text? You're gonna give your number out on the air? Okay, go ahead.
I'll give it to LJax. I'll give it to LJax if he's gonna send me positive vibes. Absolutely.
Heck yeah. I could use some more. Absolutely. Who can't use more positivity? All right. Let's talk about our rides of the week. We were not together because I was in Arizona. So, but you fit in some riding. I saw that because your back was magically healed. Gratitude to the universe.
Yes.
Tell me about your riding.
Man, I had a great ride. My first ride back from the back was with David, who's one of my Patreon supporters. So shout out David. And we went out to French Creek proper, not the Birdsboro, but the actual old school Hopewell Loop, which every time I go there, I'm always forget how much fun that loop is. We hardly ever go over there, so it's such a treat. And it was a great ride. Yeah, David's a fantastic dude, and it was really good to finally meet him. So shout out David. Thank you for the support on Patreon.
Cool. Trail Sage Patreon.
That's right. And then, you know what? I'm going to skip the Sunday because I want to actually elaborate more on the Sunday ride, but I will go to my Tuesday ride, which was with Deb, who is a mountain bike coach and a fantastic rider. I mean, super fit, super talented. And we hooked up on Instagram, and it turns out she lives right by the WIS. So we went to the WIS, and man, just such a talented coach. And unfortunately, it had rained, and some of those wooden bridges are like ice. And she hit one of those wooden bridges, and that was it. She went down hard. And we've all been there. That hurts. And speedy recovery, Deb. And we'll ride again at the WIS for sure. The Sunday ride, Danny. Oh boy, I hooked up with Keeton, and we went to Mount Penn to Session Skyline, which I've been dying to do on the analog bike because I have no idea if I can clear these jumps on the analog bike. And I got to tell you, I did it. I got 1 through 4 on the analog bike. And I got to tell you, seeing Keeton clear everything with ease, and just having his advice and just watching him and his confidence in me, just so inspiring, man. That dude has got some serious steez on that bike. And he's a great dude. Yeah.
He's such a nice guy. He's shown us videos when he was here working on the pump track with Sean at Sticks and Stones Trail, who builds trails and builds pump tracks. So definitely check out Sticks and Stones. It's awesome.
Yeah.
But I think he's just about 19. So, just like a young dude, just like out having fun on bikes, and it's awesome.
Yeah.
And had a lot of time to practice that sort of thing. And he's really good. He's a good athlete, and he's got a lot of style. He's got a lot of confidence, got a lot of pop on the jumps. I was behind him at Blue Mountain, and he's awesome. He was awesome on the pump track. So how did you guys meet at A-Line, or did you guys ride up to it?
Yeah, we rode up. We met at the at our lake lot, at our traditional lake lot. So I did take him on some tech stuff because he had not really done any of the. I think he said he did do some tech, but you and I know that mountain pretty well. So I took him on to some skinnies. We did, a couple slabs and stuff like that. And then we headed over to Skyline pretty quickly because I was itching.
Yeah. What did he think of the tech?
I think that Keaton's issue is more of the fitness realm. He's not used to pedaling up these big climbs, and Mount Penn is especially tough because they're not flow climbs, they're tech climbs, and that wears you out. So
sure does.
He was really good on the tech, but he was, I think after a few features, he was like, I think I've had enough. And it's like, yeah, well, I'm itching to get to the jump line. So let's go. I don't want to, I wanted his help on the jumps more than anything. So,
right.
I gladly obliged.
Yes. Yeah. It's really interesting when you see people that are like really, really good on jumping bikes. And then sometimes they struggle on tech. And then sometimes they're really good at jumping bikes, and then they're good on tech also. They're just like Keeton, just a natural, just got the balance. And I'm not surprised that he's good at tech. Just the balance and the skill and the bike, the awareness of where the bike is under him. Just a lot of this stuff is second nature. When you've been riding since you were real young, I think sometimes that just comes to second nature. I'm envious of that. But yeah, you do need the fitness to get up and down Mount Penn. Those are not easy climbs. Mm-hmm. Well, that's awesome, man. I'm looking forward to seeing some of that video then. I guess you got video of it, right? Yeah.
Oh yeah, I got tons
and
of shots.
The ibis felt good.
The ibis felt great, Danny. I mean, I definitely took a while to get used to that weight, and we had spent a lot of earlier in the podcast talking about it, but that makes a big difference in how the bike feels underneath you, because it suddenly feels like very loose. I can't explain it. The best way that I can do that is it feels loose under you, because there's not this like immense weight under you pulling you down. And so when you go off these jumps, it just, you're like, oh my gosh, what do I, you're just like kind of fluttering in the air. So the first, again, I was missing the e-bike because we only got like maybe 16 laps, which is a lot. That is a lot.
Analog, a lot, yes.
It is. But it took me 4
An interesting
jumps.
Number to pull out, to say maybe 16. Like normally you would go with a round number, like maybe 15 or maybe 20.
Yeah.
16 is that's an interesting number. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I was thinking in 4s, because it took me 4 jumps to get over 1 and 2. And then it took me another 4 laps to get over 3. And then it took me another 4 laps to get over 4. 4 times 4 is 16. Look at the fast math. Hello. What? So I did not get 5.
This wasn't a math podcast.
Yeah, that's right. Who said that?
Yeah.
But no, I did not get 5 though, Danny. That was the last one. And I think I can get it, but I was just so worn out. I mean, that's a lot of laps.
Yeah. 5 we didn't get on the e-bike until the very end of day 2. We started getting 5. So it's another level of send. It curves in the opposite direction as number 3, and it's a little bit bigger. It's got a great landing. I mean, it's totally doable, but for some reason it does seem more intimidating. But that's interesting, because on the e-bike, I said like in the first 15 minutes you were clearing 1 and 2, and maybe even more than that. But you get so many more laps, and so you like, were you getting frustrated when you were not clearing and then you have to like pedal back up? Were you like frustrated that you didn't have the e-bike, or were you just excited to see how it felt on the analog bike?
That's an interesting question. I did get frustrated on my first 3 runs, because the minute that I couldn't clear 1 and 2, I was like, oh no, do I need to get an e-bike? Like, is this not possible? And this is
where I have
where
to spend $10,000 to be able to jump. I mean, come on. I thought I hacked this thing with a demo bike.
Get the sandbags. Yeah. This is where having someone like Keeton was really, really helpful, because I think he could sense that I was getting frustrated, and, his calmness and his confidence in me was really inspiring. And he was just calmly pushing me and inspiring me, and like, you got this, just stay with it. And, it wasn't one specific advice. It was just more of the whole approach as that goes. And so even though I was getting frustrated watching him, then him kind of not coaching me, but just like encouraging me to go around, really helped me out. Once I got over 1 and 2, I was like, okay, I got this. And it was just the confidence to send 3. Once I got 3, then 4 fell in line. But it was interesting, Danny. I had a hard time working in the bar turn, which I had a lot of fun doing on the e-bike. But again, because it's so loose in the air, I was just like, just kind of fluttering about in the air. It was just an odd feeling.
Well, if I may, it sounds to me like Keeton raised the vibration. He raised your vibration.
Yes.
Right? You were getting bummed, and he was like, no. Everything's going to work out. Everything's cool. You're going to get this, right? And he just kind of kept that confidence going. He was having fun. He was confident that you were going to get it. And so he raised that vibration, and you felt that. And sometimes it's good just to have another rider with us. I've seen YouTube videos on this. Mark Matthews just did one where he had this mega drop and he built this huge drop and he kept looking at it and he had like 2 or 3 episodes where he wouldn't do it. He was scared of his own feature, rightfully so. The thing was gigantic. And then when he finally did it, he was like, I brought this other guy. I forget what his name was, but he's like, I brought this other guy and he's just like a positive dude. Yeah, he just brought positive vibes with him, like, hey, wow, we got this. And it makes such a difference. And so Keeton's, he's a positive dude and he's really good at jumping and he saw the video, he saw you doing it. So he was like, no, you got this. And so without even having to coach you necessarily, and maybe he did give you some pointers or some tips, but you knew how to do it. This is classic unlocking our skills.
Yeah.
The skills are in
there.
Yeah.
Yeah. It was
classic. Yeah. Just let it go. Yeah, just let it go and settle into it. So that's awesome that you got to go there with him, and that's awesome that you got to jump on your regular bike, on your analog bike, and see what that felt like. So congratulations, man.
Thank you.
It's interesting because Slanted Ground started his YouTube channel, and he just had put out a video on jumping. And it's really good. And I actually think that he's got a lot of this isn't my comment to him, was like, he has so many great little mountain bike terms. I almost want to like go back and listen and write some of these things down. But one of the things he said was learn how to jump on a small jump. He said, become a small jump hero.
Yeah.
So that you're not doing it with speed. You're learning the technique of how to jump. And I thought that was really, really great advice,
Yeah. Yeah, I think that's the big problem with Skyline is there is no small jump line. The smallest jump is the opening jump, and that's actually a pretty big jump. And listen, it's easy for me to say this because it's not my money, but I would love to see a second line built that's more intermediate.
Yes, that would be nice.
Yeah, just 1 or 2 jumps.
But that middle section
people get in.
is that middle section that we're sessioning, and everyone, we keep using that word. I'm assuming everyone knows what it is, but if you don't know, sessioning just means in mountain biking, it's doing something over and over. We're trying it again and again and again. If we stop to session something, we're going to keep trying it until we get it, or don't get it. But you're going to keep going at it. We're going to session it. So those jumps were made they were really designed for sessioning. So I have a hard time complaining about Skyline. It's so great. There's so much on there that still we haven't conquered and still might be over our head. Not over our heads, so we could definitely get it.
You had mentioned Josh's video, and one of the things that Josh mentioned was one of the things that I was talking to you about, which is pulling that bike up to our chest. So instead of like getting low, he's getting low, but he's popping and he's actually pulling that bike up and standing up. And that's one of the things that I was kind of working on at Smedley before they destroyed it. But that's one thing that I want to work on next on those jumps. I got the bar term, but like, how about I stand up taller in the jump so that I can actually do something with that bar term, maybe turn it into a whip, or I don't know, but like, that's the next step for me. Like, there's so many things to work on. So.
Oh yeah. Just clearing it. I mean, for so long, and I'm probably still in that camp. It was just like, I just want to be able to clear them. I don't care about doing any tricks or anything like that. I just want to be able to be in the air long enough to clear these things, and I'm still really fine with that. But you do get more, there's so much nuance to it. And that's another thing that Josh says. Everyone's going to have to go watch this video. But that's another thing that he says, is that it really just comes down to repetition, which is where we default back to something like an e-bike or a bike park.
Yeah.
It just comes down to repetition. If you have the e-bike in your garage, it's so easy to go find a place where you can just go do repetition on a weekday that you have off, or your weekend ride. And there's just so much little nuance to jumping. And yeah, he did say that you want to kind of don't go back. Don't go too far back. You want to lean a little bit forward, lead with your chest. And that was what I was doing. I kept my motto when I was jumping on the e-bike was centered, stay centered. Don't go back. I've said on this podcast before, sometimes on jumps, I'll consciously try to lean a little bit too far forward because that puts me in the center because I'm unconsciously leaning back. Yeah. And I think the more that we can shift forward within that comfort range, you're actually probably going into maybe a better space. Josh can comment on that. He's invited us to go ride with him and do some jumping, so we should do that. Seeing what good advice he gives. Yeah. So, all right. Well, my ride was Sunday morning, and in Arizona, it was like 110 degrees peak. So normally I avoid South Mountain on the weekend because it gets really crowded with hikers. But
Yeah.
it's if I only have one ride there, that's kind of the ride that I want to do.
Oh, yeah.
So you get up really, really early in Phoenix in the valley in the summer. If you want to ride outside, you're either doing it at night or you're doing it really, really early. And so I was on the trail at 5:45 a.m. I just stayed on East Coast time. And I get into the parking lot there at South Mountain, the main parking lot, and every car either has a mountain bike on it or a bike rack on it. And there's a sprinkling of trail runners, but it was just like the fit and active people were up and ready and, and riding. And there was a lot of mountain bikers out. I barely saw any hikers. So,
wow.
I had a great ride. I got my Pivot Firebird out there and I felt good. I got a bunch of climbs that I don't usually get every time. And it just felt good, having fun, feeling confident on the bike. That ride is awesome. Flowed right into the waterfall. I'm still nervous every time I approach it. I'm not riding out there enough, but every time I do it, it's getting like more and more just routine. Like this isn't that big of a deal. And this time I really flowed down it like beautifully. It was no big deal. And so I'm like in that like last quarter of the ride where it's mostly downhill. There's a couple punchy uphill parts and there's someone behind me. And you could tell when you're riding that you're not, that person is staying right behind you.
Yeah.
And eventually if that happens long enough, you're starting to think like, am I holding this person up?
Right.
So at one point I like pull over and I was just like, hey, do you want to pass? And he was like, no, you're going a great pace. And so, okay, on we go. So I got back on the pedals and started going some more. And then there comes a really technical climb. I didn't get it. So I'm walking my bike up to the very top of this thing. And here comes this rider again, and he's right behind me. And he doesn't get the climb either, but he gets to the top. And I was like, are you sure you don't want to pass? Because you are right on me. And he was like, no, you're going a great pace. And then I looked down and he's on an e-bike. So I was like, man, because I felt pretty good. Like I was putting down some PRs. I felt really good. And I was like, who is keeping up? Now I'm not a local, so I know there's guys there that are faster and stronger than me and that know the lines better than me. But I was going pretty fast. And so I was like, all right, either pass me or lose me. Like it didn't seem right that someone was like just going my exact speed. And so that was really interesting. And so I started talking to him, and he actually spent a few years. His name's JB. He actually spent a few years in Pennsylvania, and he rode up near Scranton, and he knows some of the people that we know, including Joe Cadillac. He knew a couple of the people. So just small world.
Right.
And he was super, super nice. And his buddies eventually caught up. A lot of them were on e-bikes. I think some were on analog bikes. They had a whole group that was out riding. Really, really nice people. And then I was like, I'll see you guys back at the parking lot, So I go and finish the ride and get back to the parking lot, and they're all hanging out at picnic tables under this overhang where there's away out of the sun, and you just hear laughing and joking around, and it was like, this is it. They finished their group ride. The Stoke was high, and they were all hanging out, laughing, having a great time, and I was just like, ride and laugh. Right and left. They were like, what is up with this dude? But I just had this like big grin on my face. I was like, yes, this is what it's about. This is what it's about. So it was a big group of friends, and they were laughing and having a great time. And JB said, man, in the summer, he said, I ride this thing mostly in the summer because it's just so brutally hot, and you wear out so quickly that it makes sense to have it. And that was in Shelley's, letter to her e-bike as well. Just like, and it's too hot to ride. And so, it makes sense.
Did he do the waterfall with you, or?
No, I did not see anybody on the waterfall. There was a guy waiting at the bottom of the waterfall. So with that trail, you got to really make sure there's no one coming down before you start hiking up it. So
oh boy.
I appreciate that. Yeah.
Yeah. Do you think the waterfall is doable on the e-bike? I know we tried on the analog, and that was.
I
was curious.
Know. Yeah,
that's why I was getting at.
Yeah, e-bike. Yeah, that's really interesting. I feel like it takes some trials moves in there also, but and a lot of power and a lot of technique. I don't know.
I don't know either.
It's still really hard. All right, let's talk about this because you've now unlocked some jumping on your analog bike.
Yes.
Where would you like to take the analog bike next to work on jumps?
You know where I would love to go back is Highland. I know that lift was really slow, but when we went, there was like a summer camp or something. So not only was the lift slow, but the line was like super long. I'd love to get back to Highland when, there is no summer camp. I'll deal with the slow lift up, but that place was so cool.
Yeah.
And if you don't know Highland, it is in, what is it? Is it New Hampshire?
It is in New Hampshire, I believe.
Yeah, New Hampshire. And it's built for mountain bikers. And that's it. There's no skiing there. It's literally purpose built for mountain bikers.
Yeah.
And you can tell.
Mountain bike only park. Yes.
Yeah. You can tell. The features are awesome. They're big drops. We didn't get to hit any of them because it was, how many runs did we get? We didn't even get that many runs because we were waiting so long for every lift ride. But man, that place, I just remember leaving that place and just thinking like, I cannot wait to get back here. And my footage was ruined that day because I had that mud spot. I didn't realize I had it, so I didn't make a video on it. But yeah, I want to go back.
Yeah, I would go back to
any trail.
I would go back to Highland. Yeah, we had one of our funniest moments there. Which should we explain that bed?
You can. It was so funny.
This is like one of the absolute most ridiculous things that I've ever done, and it just got it doesn't get old. It was so dumb. It just got legs. So there is a trail there. There is a trail there called New England Trail, right? Isn't that what it was called?
That's right. NE style.
New England style. That's right. Yes. Thank you. And it was their, at the time, it was their newest jump line. And that was like the trail everyone was talking about. It's called New England style. Yeah. And so we got there and I was curious to ride it. And we asked someone where it was and they started talking about NE style.
Yeah.
Which clearly is New England style. But for me, I thought they didn't say NE. I thought they said any. ANY. So I thought it was a whole different trail. I thought they were talking, this guy I thought was talking about any style. He was like, we were like, what trail should we ride? And he was like, well, there's Hellion is really good or any style. And I was like, oh, any style. I didn't read about that one, because I was watching all the videos and I looked at Trail Forks and I was like, where's any style? And so I proceeded like a big dummy to ask everybody that we ran into, do you know where any style is? When we were on NE style, I was asking where any style is. And so these dudes were looking at me like, is this dude messing with us right now? Like they're looking for a hidden camera, And they're like, I was like, do you guys know where any style is? And they were like, I think we're on it right now. And I was like, no. This definitely isn't it.
This is
I'm looking for any style. This is NE style.
Those two kids, they thought you were on crack. Their faces were so funny. Oh my gosh, they literally thought you were on crack. Yeah.
They were like, how is this guy being so serious about this right now?
Yeah.
So, and then I forget the name of the guy that we met, the super nice guy, Kyle, that was like showing us around. He was a local. He had a season pass. And, like he was just riding the lift with us and he totally knew how to jump and we were like casing everything, but he was just awesome. He was the one that told me about any style. And so I kept asking him, right, I understand that's NE style, but what about, where's any style? And, he was just like being so polite
so
and nice
kind,
all day. I don't know at what point that it clicked for me. I mean,
you saw a sign.
Were we still...
No, okay. You saw a map. And you saw the map at the top, and you're like, NE style.
What were you thinking that whole time? Were you confused? Also?
No, I had no idea what you were talking about. You're like, any style. I'm like, yeah, we're on any style. And then when you stopped to ask those kids, I was like, who? I was looking at the kids. I'm like, I don't know who this guy is either. Like, I didn't understand what you were getting confused about because it just seemed so clear.
Oh my God.
I don't know. It was so funny.
NE style. I thought it was any style. You can see how that would be confusing. I don't know why my brain got locked in on that, but it was so funny. We laughed about it the entire weekend. We just, and talk about you got to be able to laugh at yourself. I mean, holy mackerel. That's an all-timer. That's an all-timer.
Really
and I was
was.
asking people on the lift line. I mean, it's just like everyone and was just getting these bizarre looks, especially when you're on the trail. You're on the trail and you're asking where it is. And it's just like, this guy take mushrooms or something? I mean, what is happening right now? I was so sincere, like I wanted to ride this trail really so badly. I had in my mind this mythical trail. Yeah. So that's my lasting memory from Highland. But I remember there's awesome features there. There's awesome drops. There was awesome runs. I remember that Hellion Trail being like really rideable. That was in our wheelhouse back then. So like we could totally wax those jumps now. I totally agree. I would love to get back there. It is a long drive. That would be a great place to overnight and spend 2 nights at, like get that second day. That would be really cool. I'm looking forward to, we haven't been to Mountain Creek yet. Mountain Creek is like the big bike park in New Jersey. That's the other one that's close enough for us to do a day trip. It's a 2.5 hour drive. It's a long day, but it's a very, very legitimate bike park with a lot of really, really great jump trails, a lot of good tech too. I mean, I would love to get 2 days there, but I would settle for 1, and I'm totally jonesing to hit some of those drops again and hit Dominion and Salvation and some of those jump lines and see how you do. And what's and Tempest. I mean, there's so much good stuff there. So I would like to get there at least 2 or 3 times this summer, but we haven't been yet. And I'm totally jonesing to go. And now that you're like, I want to be able to ride these jump lines with Trail Sage. Yeah, I've never been able to do that. Unless you're behind me, and then you were always real far behind me, and you were casing, and you weren't having fun, and but yeah, it's a new world. So I'm just really excited. We still got a ton of places on the bucket list to talk about, but I'm excited to get back to Mountain Creek. RNL at Gmail, and comment in the YouTube comments. Where are you looking forward to going? What's your next bike park? And what are you jonesing for? And, if you want to start throwing a couple things in there on the bucket list, this isn't officially the bucket list podcast yet either. E-bikes, we talked a lot again about e-bikes. So more e-bike opinions, more e-bike feedback. What about the judgment that you feel if you see someone on an e-bike and you're on a regular bike, or if you're on an e-bike and you sometimes feel the judgment from acoustic riders? Do you feel that? So we want to start recognizing those kind of emotions, and if they're not serving us, we want to be able to send love to them and just let them go, and just bring kindness to other people and bring kindness to ourselves. We're here to have fun. We're here to spread Stoke and love and joy and have all those things and more of those things. And it's limitless. We're limitless. Anything is possible. There's not a certain amount of Stoke to go around and then we run out. It's unlimited.
Yes. Well, having said that, Danny, what's your gratitude?
My mountain bike gratitude of the week is, and I could use this absolutely every week or every day, because this is something that I think about every day and every week. My wife, Lauren, who is just incredible in more ways than I could explain. That would be a whole different podcast of me going on and on about how wonderful my wife is and how much I love her and how beautiful she is and how proud I am of the person that she is and the relationship that we have. But part of that is very much that Saturday, her saying, or Friday, whatever day it was, her saying, when are you going to ride? Let's get you a ride. I know you came out here just to visit family. I know you weren't thinking about that, but I'm thinking about that because I know what fills you up. I know that it's important to you. So in her mind, without talking to me, this was a priority. Let's get you out for a ride. That's important to me because it's important to you. And I have so much gratitude. And just like that most of that ride, I was just riding, just thinking about how much I love her and how much gratitude I have to have found such an awesome lady who's supportive. And so thank you, Lauren. And I'm looking at Sage and saying I love you. So that feels weird. I'm gonna look at the camera. Thank you, Lauren. I love you very much. Yeah. And mountain bike gratitude of the week to my wife. And I'm sure when you're in that kind of relationship, whether it be mountain biking or anything, with someone who supports you and raises your vibration, right? It makes you feel good, and you can raise their vibration and make them feel good. and we can just bring more joy into the life and into life and into the world and to our kids and everyone that's around us. And that's something that my wife and I have been practicing and thinking about a lot lately. And it's awesome to be on this journey with her. And I'm so grateful to have such an amazing lady and partner. So thank you, Lauren. I love you.
Oh, man, that's super sweet. And I have to say, she has been awesome to me, too. You have a really special lady there. I'm still continuing to go through my divorce, and she has just been such a rock to be able to, like, she just gives really good advice. She cares. She is one of the most selfless people I've ever met. She is so giving of herself. And yeah, I love you, Lauren, as well. And awesome stuff. My gratitude happens to go to my partner in my life, which happens to be my Ibis bike right now. I love you, babe. But it's been, I guess, 3 weeks now since I've had that bike back, and I've struggled to get used to it because I went from a single speed and then had a couple rides on the Ibis and then went right to the e-bike. And so these last 4 rides have been great. I've been getting to know my bike again, which sounds absolutely silly, but I am so grateful for that bike. The last step of the last thing that I needed to accomplish was jumping. Yeah, I didn't know if I could do that on the Ibis because I'd never been able to do that. And to pull off what I was able to pull off with Keeton, I just felt so much joy. And a lot of that has to do with that bike. You know, that bike has seen me through a lot of times. It's got, over 4,000 miles on it. It's been broken several times, and she's been with me every step of the way. So thank you, my Ibis Mojo 3 from 2018. I'm going to need you to keep going. We're going to do this thing.
Well, I second that. That is an awesome bike. It's a nice looking bike too. I mean, the day you got it, the lines on that bike are beautiful, and Ibis builds a great bike, and it's been fantastic for you. You've been crushing on it, and you've been excelling on it. You've been progressing on it, and that you're limitless on that bike. Obviously, you could do anything on that bike. You do everything really well on that bike, and that bike can jump. And it's a good bike. I also think that there's abundance. There's abundance for all of us. I think that new bikes are coming. I feel new bikes are coming. Even though, it'll be in the perfect time and place, but the Ibis is meant to still be here.
That's right.
And new bikes are coming, e-bikes, regular bikes. I feel it happening for us all. Anyone that wants a new bike. But Sage is also happy with his current bike. And that's a really good place to be, is content and positive and feeling good and gratitude. That's a mountain bike gratitude. We encourage everyone to have your own mountain bike gratitude. Step into ours, your wife or your loved one or your bike, but they're, dehumidifier or your son, it could be anything.
Yes, that's right. My mountain bike tip for this week goes back to my ride with Deb, and, hitting those wooden features in the wet is something that we all have. I don't care how experienced you are. I don't care where you are. It's happened to all of us. And unfortunately, there's not much that you can do once you're on the wood. But if you're a beginner, there are things that you can do before you get to that wood. And that is try and hit that wood straight on. So in the one that Deb hit, that's right, wet wood. In Deb's case, the wood was actually on a turn. So she would have had to have hit that like in a weird angle to get it straight. If you're not able to do that, if you see that bridge coming up and it's wet, slow down and hit that thing as straight as possible. The worst thing that you can do is try and turn. And the second worst thing that you can do is brake, because once you lock up the tires, you're definitely done. And if you try and turn, if you've ever tried to turn on ice, nothing happens. And by the way, it doesn't matter if you're on flats or clips. Like if you're on flats and you're like, oh, I'll just put my feet down. No, you put your feet down. Your feet are slipping with the bike. Like it's just not a flat or clips thing. It's just slick.
The rubber on wet wood is just like, it's just ice. I mean, it is so slick. And if you have any sort of speed, does that sound bad? Oh,
yes.
Wow.
On wet wood.
That's not bad. I was being a good boy. All podcast. Okay.
Get some lube, and we're right back to where we were last time.
Now I've had several inappropriate things go through my brain very quickly, which I'm not going to say. All right. Well, maybe on Patreon. Maybe we'll do a Patreon where we have the blue episode. All right. Anyways, the wood when it's wet on your mountain bike tires is incredibly slick. And if you're clipped in or not, you will go down so fast, especially on a bridge. Say you're just talking about a bridge like his friend Deb went down on, because the bridge is all wood. But the same thing happens on roots. Now on roots, you might slide off and hook up on some dirt and you might be okay. But the same technique applies to wet roots. You want to hit it square and you don't want to turn or break. You want to commit and just get over those things. And
excellent point.
You can get over them pretty quickly. So it comes back to that trust element, right? So you go through with speed and the right body position and let the bike move under you. And if it's a lot of wet roots, you want to be able to just commit and hit them as square as possible and flow through them. And then same thing with that bridge. I had a really, really bad bridge accident. We're running out of time, so I'll tell that some other time. But Deb, I totally relate to this fall because I went down super, super hard on a wet bridge at Wissahickon and actually got really, really, really badly hurt. Yeah, on a fat bike, even more rubber on the wood. They were, it was a Magnum-sized tire. I mean, Maxxis. Did I say Magnum? I meant Maxxis. A lot of rubber. There's a lot of rubber on that wet wood.
That's a lot of rubber. Yep. Oh, boy.
It's dangerous. It is dangerous. Yes. All right. Well, if you're still listening, you are definitely one of us. You're a mountain biker. We appreciate you. Gratitude. Thank you for listening. And please rate and subscribe on YouTube and give us a thumbs up, and rate and subscribe on your podcast player and give us a 5-star review. If you want to leave a review on Apple Podcast Player, that would be awesome. We appreciate you. Everyone have a great week. Ride and laugh.
I'll see you, everyone.